We'll get started. Please continue enjoying your lunch. Thank you, everyone. And in case I forgot to say it, I don't have $18 million. That's the way to begin this interview, don't you think?
I'm impressed.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Ted Sorensen. It's an honor to have you here. I don't throw that word around lightly, but
Thank you.
It means a lot to me. I enjoyed your book so much, and as I said before, I really enjoyed the audio book. And what the audio book allowed me to do, in some ways, was retrace a lot of the pathways of I know you don't like to call it Camelot, but the Kennedy era. And so I could walk around to the places you're talking about and listen to it at the same time. And yesterday, even though you don't really write about it in the book, I just felt driven to go to the Kennedy gravesite, which I did. And when I was there, I wondered, do you visit the gravesite?
No, not because I don't think of it with the greatest respect, but it is also as a reminder of the saddest day of my life.
So it's too sad for you to go there. Have you been to the gravesite?
I have been there. I have taken visitors there once or twice.
But a long time ago, not?
A long time ago.
And it's you make this very clear in the book that you, in many ways, are no less sad now than you were when he died. It's a sadness that won't leave you.
That's true. Life goes on. I've had an interesting and challenging and very fortunate life since JFK's death and all these years since I left the White House. But that particular chapter was, for me, the toughest chapter in the book to write.
The chapter about about learning about his assassination.
Yes.
It was interesting, too, because you make a point of saying that you happened to be at the White House. You saw him the day before when he left for Dallas. In fact, the last time you saw him, you handed him some notes. It was just
That's right.
the most inconsequential of
That's right.
moments.
It was, I can still see it in my mind's eye. He was about to get in his helicopter on the back White House lawn, which would take him to Andrews Air Force Base, where he would board Air Force One for Texas.
And then you went about your business.
Yes.
And the next day, you had been, what, were you at the Pentagon? You were out of the White House, and your driver told you to call the White House or return to the White House.
No, actually, I was in a White House car on my way back to the White House.
Okay.
And I really don't like talking about this, Carol, I'm sorry. But the dispatcher's voice came over the radio. I could hear it. Do you have Mr. They didn't say Mr. Sorensen. I had a Secret Service.
What was your Secret Service
I
name?
am happy to say I've forgotten it.
I guess you didn't like it very much.
No, I just have no recollection of what it was. But oh, thanks. The dispatcher said it's Mr. Sorensen in the car, and the driver said yes, and the dispatcher said please return to the White House immediately.
And
I couldn't imagine what could be the reason for it.
Because what had happened was unimaginable.
I'll say.
And the interesting thing to me, and you remark about this, is that when the death was confirmed, there was no chaos. There was no drama. Everybody was just.
I wouldn't say there was no drama.
Well, drama's probably.
But there was no chaos. There was no shrieking.
Because the means of information were so limited back then. You went to a Secret Service office where they had a direct line to Parkland.
Exactly.
But it wasn't like it would be today. And you were supposed to go to your brother's for dinner, but then you were asked to come to Andrews to.
Yes. You read the book well.
Well, it's twice. But that was the first time you cried.
Oh, please. No, what I relate in the book is that my brother, who was the deputy director of USIA, insisted that I come out to have
To his house for dinner.
dinner with him and his family, and I did not want to be alone, and I went out there, and then, oh boy, and we had, dinner had just started when the phone rang, and it was Lyndon Johnson on the phone, and this is tough. I really don't talk about this. He was very nice, and he urged me to stay, said how much he needed me, how much he understood how I felt, and that he wanted me to come to see him in his office, if possible, the next day, and that is in his office, which was the Vice President's office. He was still calling from there. Oh, God. And so I agreed that I would try to do that, and he thanked me, and I said, "Thank you, Mr. President." And I broke down. And after all these years, I'm sorry, but I still don't like to think about that, even that 1 second.
Well, I understand. May I read some of your own words back to you from your book?
Yes, but please pick some other chapter.
Well, I hope this doesn't make you sad. I thought this was, you know, I thought it was poetic. It had music to it when I read it, and especially hearing you read it. But I remember John F. Kennedy clearly. I remember him clearly despite the idolaters who have almost buried the memory of the real man under a Camelot myth too heroic to be human, despite the exaggerated attention and speculation, some malicious, some merely mindless, focused on allegations about his private life, and despite the revisionist detractors whose hindsight distortions of his life and record have not lessened his hold on America's affectionate memory. Too little of what he said privately was written down. All too little was written with his own hand or recorded in his own voice. Hindsight, grief, and wishful thinking, no doubt, make somewhat selective the recall of even those of us who knew him well. But what I do remember, I remember clearly, not as a professional historian or as a detached observer, but as a friend who misses him still. And that really is the book.
That's what the book's all about.
That's what the book's all about.
Or at least part 2 of the book, the middle part of the book. First part of the book is about my own
yes, your own journey. Coming here from Nebraska,
yes.
A Midwestern Danish Jew, Unitarian, right? Yes. All those things. And as you point out over and over, abstemious, which meant you were coming to a city where you would be almost unique.
That's why I just ordered lemonade.
Lemonade, well, and it's just the time of year. But when you come back to Washington as you have today, do the memories of your arrival here flood you still?
Oh, my arrival is...
It was so humble.
Well, it was very clear in my mind. I took a taxi from Union Station. It was the first taxi I'd ever been in my entire life. And in those days, Pennsylvania Avenue was open, and I was going to the YMCA. I don't know if it's still where it used to be.
Well, it still exists. I don't know if it's the same.
And I was staying, I had heard you could get cheap rooms at the YMCA. And
were they $8 a night or something?
I don't remember that, but that sounds about right. But so the taxi went right by the White House on Pennsylvania Avenue, and the front chandelier light or whatever was on, and I just gazed at that with awe and wonder.
Yeah. Do you still?
Of course, and despite its occupant, I look at it with respect.
But you didn't go right to the White House to work. You actually went.
Not.
You went to Capitol Hill. You got a job.
No, my first job was working for what is now the Department of Health and Human Services.
Right.
I was in the Office of General Counsel.